good morning to all of you that are in your school buildings, having your watch parties, or you're in your offices or classrooms and you're looking at us live. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here for school year 22-23, 23-24. Happy New Year to each of you. Just a little bit of time together this morning, but before I get started, I did see my board president that came to be a part of our, there he is, Ben Lindy, if you'll please stand. Let's give President Lindy a round of applause. Many of you in the room right now are new to CPS. If you're new, wave at me. Let's give her a round of applause. Clap for those that are in your schools as well. Welcome to Cincinnati Public Schools. All right, so as we get started this morning, we'll just talk a bit about just kind of where we started last year, bring us up through the summer and take us to where we're going next. So most of you know I started in Cincinnati Public Schools on May the 2nd of 2022. It's been almost a year and a half. Can you all believe that? I'm not sure if that's COVID years or dog years, but it's been like a year and a half already. And during that time, there were just amazing highlights. We spent a lot of time getting into schools, going into school buildings, interacting with staff, interacting with the community. And we have so many highlights from that year. So let's start with the highlights section. I'm just going to put the highlights. I don't know what my team is doing right here. Can we just put it on the highlights? Just the highlight. Here we go. All right. So many highlights. I want you to just take a moment, and I won't review all of them, but these are the celebrations that we have going into our next school year. Sometimes we hear a lot about the things that are not going well, but what time do we spend focused on the things that are going great? When we think about it, and this is only a few, we have 2 slides of just only a few things from last school year. Our Back-to-School Fest this past a couple weekends ago was amazing. We started that last year. This year, we doubled our participants for the Back-to-School Fest. So those that were involved in that, give yourselves a round of applause as well, because you did a great job. Our schools were present. Our staff was present. Our departments were there. And it was an amazing opportunity for the community to come out and see what CPS has to offer. So we started that last year, and this year we were able to double that work. We launched at the beginning of the school year last year our Be Present initiative. And Be Present since that time has just morphed into so many different things. Be present. It doesn't matter what your present is. Our staff is available every day, alert, alive, awake, and enthusiastically going out into our schools and our school buildings to provide quality service to our students. They're already present. We wanted to make sure that we were able to do a call to action for the entire Cincinnati community, because we cannot do it alone. It takes all of us to make sure that we get to those outcomes that we're looking for children. So it was our call to action. We asked parents to be present. Whatever it is that you can do to be present. If you can volunteer, come volunteer. If you can mentor, be a mentor. If you can't do either of those things because you're working 2 or 3 jobs to make sure that ends meet, you can make sure that the backpack is checked before students go to school. You can make sure that if the teacher calls because they need additional assistance, you can provide that assistance. You can make sure that there is a place wherever you live to have a location where children can do their homework or where they can engage with learning. That's being present as well. We say to our students, we want you too awake, alert, alive, awake, enthusiastic, and ready to learn. Our staff is ready to support. They're ready to teach. They're ready to engage. We want our children ready to learn. So we want you to be present as well. We want our community to be present, whatever their present can be. So that's been a huge launch for us. We're going into our 2nd year of Be Present, and it really has become the call for our community to make sure that whatever it is you can do, you're doing that with Cincinnati Public Schools. We have a few other areas here, the Harvest Parade, the Day of the Girl, College Week, which was the first time that we did College Week the way that we did. We know that we are creating and continuing to create and to continue to support a college-going culture with our students. And that's not students in just one school, that's students across the district. So we were able to do that this year. You know, I want to also call out our grants team. Our grants team this year has procured for us over $4 million in grants. I think that deserves a round of applause. A part of that was our Ohio safety grants that came from the governor's office. And so our first set of schools are beginning to see their new security cameras go into the buildings as a part of that, a bit of a process. However, most of our schools at this point will receive upgraded camera systems at their school buildings. We started with our first to the Woodward staff that's out there. Woodward has been first, so let's give Woodward a round of applause. You likely see yours in there already. Our Marion Spencer Scholarship Award recipients, we had our State of the Schools. We also had our CPS Cincinnati experience, Cincinnati CPS experience that was all around recruitment, and our fire simulation, which was launched at West High. Let's go to the next. Let's give a round of applause for these highlights. There are plenty of seats, Mr. Boyd, Mr. Walter, come on in. There's plenty of seats. Our MLK Oratorical Contest, our jazz band in Barcelona. Let's give it up. In Barcelona, yes. Our Cincinnatus Award recipients, let's give it up for them as well. When I came to Cincinnati, and I think most know, and for those that don't, I'm going to tell you right now, I am a 30-year veteran. April 27th was my 30th year in public education. So for those that do not know, I started when I was 12. Okay, I want to make sure everybody gets that. I started when I was 12. But in that 30-year experience, I had not ever had to support a levy. And we were able to get our taxpayers to support us for a renewal levy at a greater rate than it has been done before. And that deserves a round of applause from all of you, as well as all of our union leads and their support. Our Black History Month program, our Adopt a Class Teacher of the Year program, our Central State Superintendent Scholarship, that was the first one for this year. And so we were able to, and it's a launch, so we'll do it this year as well, but we were able to select a student to give a superintendent scholarship. So I surprised the student and went to graduation and gave her a $1,000 scholarship, and she happened to be a student from Woodward. So let's give her a round of applause as well. Our All-Star Showcase, our Community Partnership Award, and that goes to our team with Project Connect for the Community Partnership Award. Let's give them a round of applause as well. Beautiful, beautiful, wonderful support for our community. And last but not least, our launch of CPS Moves. Who's been moving with us? Yes, CPS Moves. We want to make sure that as we're encouraging everyone to have a healthy state of academic being, we want you to have a healthy state of living. It is important that you are taking care of yourself physically and you are taking care of your mental health. And we want to be able to model that, not just for our staff, but for our students as well. So every month we have a different focus for CPS Moves. Over the summer, we engaged in the Million Step Challenge, partnered with Go Vibrant. For June and July, here at the central office, we walked the building. How many walked with us during June and July? Let's hear it up by claps. You walked? Some walked with us. There were some, and I don't see her in the room right now, but she did not miss one walk at all. I don't see her. But we walked every Wednesday. And even if I was not here, the team got out and made sure that we walked because we want to support a healthy lifestyle. So those are just a few highlights, just broad level highlights from the school year. Now we think about, as we are also recognizing what's on the highlights, we had some other big highlights to recognize. Two of them are for our staff. We want to recognize Jessica on her award from IFMA, and that is not just nationally, that was an international award. I'm sorry, that was a national award, but it was across all industries, not just school districts. So let's give her a round of applause for that. All industries, all means all. It took me a long time to actually get this award up on the website because you would know that the people that are responsible for marketing and communications believe in celebrating everyone else, but they don't always take the time to celebrate themselves. And I do want to recognize our marketing and communications team, the only one in Ohio to receive the Golden Achievement Award from the National Association for Marketing and Public Relations, INSPRA. Let's give them a round of applause. They run it in about 4 different categories. Be Present, Parker's Playhouse. I will not get them all, but those were 2. And we had 2 board members that were recognized this year as well. Our board, who was our former president, and then we called her former vice president for a long time. Board member Jones has announced that she is retiring after 16 years, 8 years in Cincinnati Public Schools and 8 years in North College Hill. But she was recognized as a distinguished alumni from the University of Cincinnati. Let's give her a round of applause. And we have one of our newer board members, Board Member Moffitt, that was recognized from the National Association of Social Workers as Elected Official of the Year. So let's give it up for her as well. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of things to celebrate, but we are not done. And we have some greatness in the room with us. There is nothing more rewarding than being able to say you did a great job. And so this year we were able to work with Western and Southern, who has been sponsoring the the Hawkins Award, who has been sponsoring the Hawkins Award for many years for Cincinnati Public Schools. Last year we said to them, we would like to make this even bigger next year. Will you support us? And they said, whatever you want to do, we will make sure that it happens. And so this year we had more nominees for Educator of the Year than we have in the history of the program, because we had a nominee from every single CPS school for Educator of the Year. Let's give a round of applause for that. Then we were able to recognize 5 as the finalists. I was able to, one of the best days this year. It was very, very, very quick. You notice I have on the same jacket in every picture because all of those happened in the same day because they had to be a surprise, right? And so we had our top 5. We went to the schools, we recognized them, and the top selected winner for the year received a $10,000 cash award for that person. Not for their classroom, not for a special project, but for them to use however they see fit as a part of that award. So we have some of our finalists that are here today. So if you were a top 5 finalist or a Teacher of the Year finalist, let me get you to stand, please. Yes, we have 4 of the 5. We have 4 of the 5. Come on down. And our number 1, our Teacher of the Year for this year from Withrow High School. Come on down. This way. Just want to bring you up on the stage. And congratulate you. Mary Webb is coming. Dr. Mary Webb is coming down from Withrow High School, and she is our Western and Southern Hawkins Award winner, Teacher of the Year. Let's give it up one more time for her as she's coming down. Congratulations to you again. Thank you. We appreciate you. We are not done with highlights. We have another. So at the same time that we were able to launch the Teacher of the Year, Educator of the Year has been around for a while. But we were talking to the team because not only did we want to recognize the Educator of the Year, we wanted to recognize employees and staff as well. Because those are really the ones that are the background and the backbone and foundation of everything else that we're doing. So we had an amazing first-time Employee of the Year celebration, but this is the thing that was wonderful about it. We did recognition for 3 individuals in each area. So there wasn't just one person, but there were multiple people in each of the areas. So if you were recognized as an Employee of the Year for any area and you're here with me in ILC right now, please stand. Let's give it up. Let's give it up for them. One more time, let's give it up for them. It was in all areas. Thank you. You may be seated. And thank you so much for being here this morning. All right. So as we begin to move to our next, I want you to take just a minute. We have our student in the middle, right? What do you see that's coming up on the screen? What do you see? We see good news coming up on the screen. Why is this the best place for us to end this part of the conversation right now? Keep it coming. Are we seeing what's happening here? Do you see the news that's out there? That's only this past year. That's only this past year. Because as I started the conversation this morning, what generally gets the most time, the most focus, the most attention is the noise. And what I encourage each of you this morning to do is silence the noise. Mute the noise, because there are amazing things happening in Cincinnati Public Schools, and it could not happen without all of you. We have a student in the middle. Why? Because that's our focus. But as you look at everything else that's happening, and you think about the work that's happening in Cincinnati Public Schools, if you see a headline that you did not know about, wave at me. Exactly. Because a lot is happening, and something else. We need to do more to make sure that you know the headlines as well. Because these are the kinds of things that we want to make sure that we're continuing to circulate around the district. These are the things that we want to circulate through the community. These are the things that we want to talk about as we move from day to day. So thank you so much. Let's go to the next. So last year we started our year getting back to the basics, and this is a recap of our ABCs for 22-23. From our listening and learning tours, starting at the beginning of May, going out to schools, doing small groups with students, with families, with staff, with the community, we realized that Cincinnati Public Schools was doing a whole lot. But Cincinnati Public Schools was doing a whole lot. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we did last year is kind of streamline some of that work. Recognizing that change is hard, and I'm the first to say that. I recognize that change is hard. Change is difficult. Change takes time, and that's understandable. But we don't have a lot of time. Why not? Because for every moment that we take in time, we're losing a child. For every moment that we take to go slower, we're leaving another child. Our kids only have today. They don't have tomorrow. They have what we give to them right now. So, of course, we monitor it. We take feedback. We look at the way that we do the work that we do, but we don't move any slower because our kids deserve us to go quickly to meet their needs. We know that we learned a lot through the COVID pandemic, some things that we already knew as educators. The world realized that the educational system, that schools were the nucleus of the community. We already knew that. We already knew. So it's important for us as we think about getting back to the basics, going back to those things that we know that truly, truly, truly make a difference for our children, for our staff, for our families, and for our community. So then we go back to the basics. So we started with the ABCs. Academics, behavior, and culture were our ABCs for those of us that are new to our district. This allowed us to focus on three major things: instructional shifts, pedagogy, what we're actually teaching in the classroom. Instruction, our curriculum is what we're teaching. Our pedagogy is how we're teaching that, and overall student engagement. Because let's face it, we can have the best curriculum, the teachers can have the best strategies, but if the student is not engaged, learning does not take place. So it's important for us to make certain that we're engaging our students. Our preliminary achievement data is encouraging. Everyone say encouraging. That was not loud enough. Everyone say encouraging. Encouraging. For our third through eighth grade students, for our high school students, in our 20 core areas, we test in 20 areas because we start testing at third grade. We test in 20 areas. Of the 20 areas that we tested in based on our preliminary data, we have increased in 11 of those 20 areas. That's 55%. And in some of those areas, based on the preliminary data, as much as double-digit increases. Why is that important? Because increased data means improvement for children. Data does not just represent numbers. There are two eyes on every bit of data that we're looking at. And so the more we improve data, the more we improve outcomes for children. So let's give a round of applause for the increase from last year to this year in terms of our academic achievement. We know in October our data comes out, sure, but that's what we're seeing right now. And so that is really, really encouraging. Let's go to the next. And encouraging at a time when across the country, data is decreasing. Encouraging when across the country, data is decreasing. So we really want to give support to our leadership, support to our teachers, support to our parents, all of those that are in classrooms that are working with students, support to everyone that's supporting our children, and support to families for making sure that our children are alert, alive, awake, and enthusiastic and ready to do what? Ready to learn. You got it. All right. So this is so exciting. So we started last year instructional reviews. And most of the individuals here are from the central office, I believe, but we do have some teaching staff here. So if you were involved in instructional reviews at all, let me get you to wave at me as well. Quite a few. So let's give them a round of applause for this. It was really exciting for us. Really exciting for us. Because instructional reviews allowed us the opportunity as a district team to go in partnership with the school team to focus on the work. What is the work? What's happening in classrooms? Where are we with instruction? What are we doing in the curriculum? But more importantly, what are our highlights? And where do we need additional support? So at the same time in doing this, we visited from, did it start in November? We started in November? We started in January, even better. We started in January, and from January until the end of the school year, we visited as teams over 600 classrooms in our district. And I think that that too deserves a huge round of applause. And the other reason that that is so important and so exciting, it's important and exciting because Chief Sherwood said something when he was standing earlier. And he said, I am here to serve you. Our team is here to serve you. And one of the things that we were able to model last school year is work for us, even those of us that work in the district office that support schools, that work is in school buildings. It's not in the offices. It's in the school building. So the teams were able to come together and inspect what we expect, but do it in partnership with schools. It was a success because it wasn't something that was done to schools, but it was something that was done with schools. And one more time, I want to recognize the team for that work. Let's give a round there as well. We adopted Montessori curriculum, which had been a long time coming, but that deserves a round of applause as well. Nationally recognized by the American Montessori Society. Nationally recognized by the American Montessori Society. And another area that was in the area of academics that was really exciting for us as well. We did the panorama survey, which we'll talk about a little bit more extensively in just a moment. But this allowed us to survey students, staff, and families, all. Students, staff, and families. We surveyed students 3rd through 12th grade, all parents, and staff as well. And the area that was so exciting, because thinking about the data from previously, going in, doing the small groups, getting the feedback, meeting with curriculum councils and those things, professional development was not an area that was a strength as you think about the responses from teachers collectively across the board. And so we did 2 surveys this year. We did the first one in December and the second one was in May. We did have a lesson learned. Next year, we will do it earlier than May because a lot of people have senioritis, not just the kids during that time, right? So we'll make sure that we do it earlier this coming year. But in doing the survey, we noticed a few things. Number one, in professional development, our rates and participation increased. So that says not only were we doing the right work, but we were working on the right things while we were doing that work. And I think that that should be celebrated because we have to make sure that we are equipping our educators with what they need to successfully meet the needs of our students. So in the area of PD, we increased from 86% to 93% in a few months for people finding PD useful and relevant. Now that does not get much better than that. Useful and relevant. That's not all. Look at this. Look at this. Check this out. We increased from 82% to 90% for those that find their skill and or knowledge grew as a result of the PD. So you're not just sitting and getting, you're able to take something and transfer it back into your place of work, and that deserves celebrating as well. And to further support our focus on professional development, we offered 437 summer PD sessions that were actually attended by staff. So not just offered them, people actually came on their own. That's good, right? They actually offered them and they came, right? On their own time, they came during the summer. So we are definitely going back to a culture of professional development, professional learning, and professional growing together. And I do think that deserves a round of applause as well. All right, let's go to the next. One of the things that I am most excited about this year, and I know that my board president will share in this sentiment with me as well, is we have changed the way that we think about goals through a training process called student outcome focused governance. Student outcome focused governance essentially means that the majority of your focus is on student outcomes. On student outcomes. Now let that resonate for just a minute. Outside of student outcomes, everything else is noise. I see some nods. I have some people that agree with me on that. I see a whole lot of nods. I need to say that again. People like that statement. Outside of student outcomes, everything else is noise. Because at the end of the day, are our students getting what they need? So the board made a really bold move, and I am so pleased to work with them as we work together through this process, because it truly is a process, because it is retraining a way of doing business. When you think about student goals first, and then recognize that the other things are important, but they can just be the noise, you have to operate differently. And that is tough. It's really tough. But in December, our board voted on our goals for the next few years as student outcome focused goals. So are the other areas important? Of course. Is there other academic data there that's important? Yes. But at the end of the work that we do, if we show improvement in these areas, then we are meeting the expectation that the board has set for us around goals. So I do want to give the board recognition right now for the goals that we have set and how we're beginning to focus on those goals. Let's give the board a round of applause for the goals. At the same time, it's important as we go to our goals, if we go to the next, it's at the same time that we think about our goals, the board, who reports to the community, went to the community to say, what is important for you? What are the values that you have as we achieve these goals? So not only do we have student outcome focused goals, but we also have guardrails or values that the community, and all of us in this room are a part of that community, that the community said these things are important as well. So as we're reaching those goals, Superintendent Wright, we want you to think about these things, because these things are also important to us as we're reaching our goals. So we have board approved student outcome focused goals, board approved guardrails, which then leads us to our next slide, because that then allows us to really begin to develop our strategic plan. I'm so excited about this work. So if you're in the room and you're involved in any of the work and strategic plan, or if you're in your buildings, don't want to leave you out in your buildings out there. Don't want to leave you out. So if you are involved in any of the strategic plan work that we did over the course of several months, let me get you to give yourselves a round of applause for that work. Okay, several were. It takes us to 5 areas to focus on. I'm going to say it first. I want you to say it after me. Fair enough? And hopefully you see yourself in these 5 areas. The first is support our students. What's the first? That was pretty weak. That was pretty weak. Let's try it again. The first is support our students. What is the first? That was better. The next, equip our educators. What's the second? Yes. The third is connect our community. What is the third? The fourth, ignite innovation. What is the fourth? And the fifth is optimize operations. What is the fifth? Now, these are in no particular order. So for those that call me later and said, right, I thought when we did the sessions, you said they weren't in order. They're in no particular order. That's just how they're listed on the screen. But it is important as we go into this school year and as we work to reach the goals that the board has set for us, that we do that with these 5 things in mind. How do we support our students? How do we make sure that our educators have what they need to support our students and to teach our students? Connecting with our community. What does that look like for us, and how do we continue to engage and connect with our community? What does it mean to ignite innovation, and how do we pull that innovation out of our children? And of course, optimizing operations. Whether we're looking at buses, whether we're looking at payments on time, whether we're looking at security and getting badges, How do we make it optimal so that that does not become a barrier to reaching the goals that we set for students? And that's where we want to bring everyone in so that as we go through this time together, we are focused on those 5 things. Next, please. All right. Now we go to the B. We go to the B. We go to the B. And the B stands for behavior. And our focus areas for behavior, PBIS, positive behavioral instructional support. We say PBIS, but that's what it stands for. Restorative practices. We'll talk about that in just a minute because everybody deserves restoration. So we're going to come back in a second. And social emotional learning. So those are the areas that we really want to spend time this year focusing on so that we, as we launch into next year, next year, I think you're with me, right? Everybody with me? Okay, good. So as we launch, we knew where we were launching to. So what did we do? We spent the past year identifying gaps. Gaps in services, gaps in resources, gaps in programs for students and staff. We really had to get a really good idea in something as strong as behavior on where we were. Where did we start and what were the gaps? From that, we analyzed the student code of conduct to develop a refresh of the code. That was a 16-week process, over 20 feedback sessions, over 300 participants. Now, if you engaged in any of the code of conduct feedback work, let me hear it by round of applause. Active people in this room, I love it. Thank you so much. We reviewed and audited throughout our district restorative practices, PBIS, SEL programming, school emergency management plans, security equipment systems, and procedures, all under behavior. All under behavior. Because we needed to know, again, where we were so that we would know where we needed to go next and what we needed to do to maintain additional focus. And then culture. Culture was a big one. And thinking about culture, a culture of learning, a culture of respect, a culture of celebration, and a culture of support. And we want to further define that as we move through the year together. Our panorama results, we talked about that a moment ago. We had the fall results, which actually was December. And then we had the spring results, and we either gained or stayed the same. And this is really important because as I shared with Panorama, that is our survey protocol. What that allows us to do, it allows everyone in our organization and every student 3rd grade through 12th grade and their families to complete an anonymous survey. Everyone say anonymous. Anonymous is important because we're not concerned about who said what. We're concerned about analyzing the what. Because if we can analyze the what, then we get to the necessary improvement. And I think many people know that while we want to create a culture where it's comfortable for people to just stand up and say what they think, that's not always the case when you start giving feedback. Everybody doesn't always want you to know who's giving the feedback where. Some have grown in that space, others we still work through the process. So to remove the barrier of honesty, we do an anonymous survey. So that was one of the changes in the survey platform and protocol from the previous year that was done with a smaller group of individuals, but that also had information there because the design of that survey was different. So it allowed us to get more information about areas that we really need to focus on. So this is what we gained. We improved in these areas or we stayed the same. One of them that was the most exciting to me, and I see we didn't put the numbers up here, so we'll share the numbers the next time. Our students said, for our students, we saw an increase. This wasn't a stay the same. We saw an increase in rigorous expectations, safety, teacher-student relationships, belonging, and engagement. Of those specifically, we saw an increase in rigorous expectation for students. So at the same time that teachers are saying the professional development is more meaningful for them and they're able to transfer it into their classroom, guess who's seeing the change? The students, because the students responded that in rigorous expectations, they saw an increase. That's one that I've committed to memory. I've not committed all of the other ones to memory. So in those areas, we either remain the same or we show an increase. For staff, we saw an increase in belonging, professional learning, school climate, and 82% understood the CPS priorities. And that is important because in order for us to know when we get where we're going, we have to be clear on where we're trying to go. In order for us to be clear that we've arrived where it is we're looking to go, we have to be clear on where we're trying to go. So our goal would be to continue to increase in that area. And for our families, one of the things I celebrate first, and this is not as much as we want, but it's better than when we started, and I believe it will continue to become a part of the overall culture. One of the things that for our families, we noticed an increase in the number of families that participated in the survey. So in the fall, we had 2,800, and in the spring, we had 4,400, which represents a 59% increase for families giving feedback on what's happening in the district. And I do think that that deserves a round of applause as well, because family engagement is so important. Go back one slide, please. Well-being. Well-being, we saw it either stayed the same or increased. And 74% of the families that took the survey said that they understand the CPS priorities. So understanding the priorities is important, because that means that all systems are working together. We do have a parent champion who has been beating the pavement this summer with the cast on her leg. We'll go back to that later. She's been beating the pavement. I do want to recognize our parent champion, Miss LaRonda Thomas. Let's go ahead and give her a round of applause, because she's been doing a lot to make sure that she's engaging with families. I also want to make sure that we recognize our customer care team, our employee care team. Our employee care team has also done so much to make sure that the word is getting out there about the work that we're doing, but that we're also working to celebrate our employees, including our employees that work here in the district office. So let's give our employee care team a round of applause as well. All right, also in the area of culture, this one makes me so excited. This whole sheet actually makes me excited. Sheet, slide, you get the point, right? This one makes me excited. We know that post-pandemic, or during the pandemic, there was an increase in the number of ELL families that moved into our community. I want to say the percentage for us as a district is somewhere around 400%, a 400% increase in ELL families. And we have to think differently about how we are providing support. Yes, we have to support all students, but it is important that we are supporting our students that have some of the greatest need in a very different way. And so working with the team this year, I was really excited, because one of the areas that we began to focus on this year for the summer, we had a group of about 30 people. We had conversation and we said, listen, we would like to have our ELL families visited during the summer. And we know that when we think about that, when I say visit, I mean literally going to homes, like go to the house, right? And we know with our ELL families, some of them, that's not comfortable for them because of the trauma that they have experienced. So we have to be thoughtful around that as well. So the teams came together, whether it was going to homes, whether it was meeting families at the area library, whether it was making sure that they were on calls with them. We delivered to homes 1,170 books for our early learners on decodables to our students. 1,170. Let's give that a round of applause, because that means those decodables are in homes. Let me also tell you why that is so important. Because if you saw the code, has anybody seen anything on this anywhere? If you have, wave at me if you have. Some people have. Listen, this is so exciting, because the decodable, on the back of the decodable, there is a QR code. And the QR code, when you play the link from the QR code, you get the lesson for the decodable in English and in Spanish. So it's not just the one size fits all, but it's truly an opportunity to provide service to the child, and in some areas, more importantly, to the entire household. 1,088 home visits have been completed to date by our team. 1,088 home visits. Home visits. At a time when there's not a lot of excitement about going out, these 30 folks came together and said, listen, yes, we'll take the charge, we'll take the challenge. We're going to go out to homes and do this. And then from there, that number went from about 30 to maybe about half of that, and they continued the charge. So I do want to give it up to our ELL team as well for leading that work and really being excited about doing it and providing the service to the families. Let's give it up for them. Also, as we think about culture, going to run through these, which are really so important, our staffing focus. We know that there is a national teaching shortage. It's national. If you watch the news this weekend, there's one school district right now that has 800 teacher vacancies in the school district. And it's not proportionate with the size of the district. Because, of course, larger districts you think will have more vacancies. As of last week, we had about 79. That's still too many, but it's better than it was this time last year. And so I do want to recognize the HR team and the work that they've been doing through that. So let's give them a round of applause. Also want to make sure, and we've made a bold statement, we want to make sure that we are doing more to ensure that our students see people, in their classrooms and teachers in their classrooms that look like them as well. So we want everyone, and we also want individuals that look like our students. So we launched this past year the Black Male Educator Initiative. We've also launched our focus on ELL educators because both of those are needs for our district. So we want all, and we want to make sure that those groups of individuals also know that there is a place for them in Cincinnati Public Schools. And so I ask you to give a round of applause to the team for working on that as well. All right, and then the last one is our transportation service analysis, our outstanding service awards. We talked about that a little bit earlier with our Western and Southern Hawkins Teacher of the Year, our Cincinnati's Employees of the Year, and Employee of the Month for Central Office and Schools. So we want to continue to do that work and think about transportation service analysis. How many of you heard anything about transportation in Cincinnati Public Schools last school year? I'm not even going to ask you to clap for that because I know everybody did. Tell you. You know, there are some things that you can anticipate. So most things that I've encountered being the superintendent in my first year, I've been in education a long time, and I was in executive leadership in the educational world for about 10 years before I came to Cincinnati. So I had seen a lot and had to work with and deal with a lot, had to organize a lot, had to implement a lot, all of those things. The one thing that I did not anticipate was my chief operations officer, who had probably been on the job at that point about 2 weeks, if that, maybe, I don't even know if it was 2 weeks, to come in and say to me, Superintendent Wright, we have a problem. And that was right before school started, because we had students that were routed to buses, but there was no bus for the route. Now think about that for a minute. The routing team had done their part. They routed the kids where they were supposed to go, but there was no bus that was assigned for the child. And that was our story and our challenge the entire school year. We work with our transportation providers, our contractors, because we contract transportation services. We work with our providers. We modified routes. We put students on Metro. We did all of the things that we could, but we could not combat the national teacher shortage, national bus driver shortage. There's a national driver shortage as well. We could not combat the national bus driver shortage and the routing that we had for our students without having enough bus drivers, without doing something different. For those that are new to our district and do not realize, we are also responsible for providing transportation, not just for our students, but for all of the non-public and charter schools in our city as well. And we don't have, at that time, we had no control, we still really don't, but we had no control over their start times. So across our district, we had about 7 to 8 different start times in a national bus driver shortage at a time when our 7th and 8th grade students had been moved by action of the board for a very good reason, had been moved from Metro back to the yellow buses. The state says that students can walk 2 miles, depending on where they live, from their driveway to their school. If it's at least 2 miles, they get transportation. Our district has done more than that in terms of service and provided transportation at 1.25 miles from where they live. But last year, before we were able to start, that decision was changed and it went from 1.25 miles to 1 mile. So is everybody seeing the comedy of errors here that we had to work through in the time of having a national bus driver shortage? So the team really worked closely, took all of the feedback from those that have been doing this work for a period of time, worked with a national organization to come in and truly audit what we were doing in transportation, what was happening with our stops, what was happening with our walk zones, so forth and so on, audit all of that. And from that, we came to, after a lot of thought, discussion, review, we came to a change in our school start times. So for the first time, and I don't know how long, and I can't even try to figure it out because all I've heard is it's been like this for a long time. So we've been able to make a change, and we got the support of our non-pubs and charters as well. So we're going from about 7 or 8 start times across our city to only 4. 4 start. Yeah, that's huge. Only 4. Because those that know anything about logistics, you realize that you have to have some way to pair to maximize the buses. And so that's something that's really, really been important. So last week we did a transportation town hall. If you are interested in what's happening right now in transportation, I encourage you to go back and look at the town hall last week. It was virtual, but a lot of questions were answered there. We do have a new call center for transportation, and our transportation team has really worked their fingers. I mean, they really, really worked their fingers to the bone, I would say, in terms of making sure that this is right for our students. So I do want to recognize our transportation team, all of them. Let's give them a round of applause as well. All right. We're almost done, guys. Is this okay? Are you hearing something that you didn't know already? If yes, go ahead and let me hear it by claps. Yes, 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 yes. Awesome. So last year we started with the ABCs. We were getting back to the basics. We're starting with the ABCs. And let me tell you one of the most wonderful things about that. This year, we're still focusing on the ABCs. This year, we are igniting the ABCs. And so as we think about Ready to Launch, in those same 3 areas, academics, passion ignites our purpose. So as we focus, we looked at our lessons learned from last year. We looked at the data. And we're focusing on professional development, a year-long process, continuing to meet and strengthen the relationships with all of the curriculum councils. This year, through feedback from all of those individuals, we were able, and this is work of the curriculum team, as well as our team in teacher effectiveness that worked through this process, but we were able to share at the beginning of the year before school started our year-long professional development plan for the year with courses already included that people could already start to plan out what they're looking at for PD. Let's give the teams a round of applause for that work. Continuing to make sure that we are focusing our work and we're focusing our support and we're providing additional coaching, not only for our students and our families as we're connecting with them and our ELL population, but really making sure that we're working to equip our teachers and our paraprofessionals in classrooms that are also working with our English language learners and continuing to give them the support that they need. We want to make sure that we study and strengthen our progression plan for the first time, and I want to recognize our school counselors that came together to work through this process. We now have, as a district, one district-wide student progression plan. One. So that means in our district, students move from one stage to the next following the same guidance. We did not have that before this year. Let's recognize the leadership of our school counselors, working with our social workers, working with our teacher leads to make sure that this happened for our students. And we also want to make sure that we enhance and expand our instructional reviews. You know, when we first started doing it, people were like, okay, what is this really going to be? Is it going to be okay? And then once we got into it, we had schools that were saying, listen, I didn't get scheduled for an instructional review. Can I have one too? So we're excited about that. And we want to continue to expand the work in that area. Continuing to look at our passion ignites our purpose. What are we doing in terms of college readiness and how we're continuing to focus our programs on career and technical education? Currently, and a lot of people don't know this, so we want to make sure that we're continuing to support that. Currently, we have 20 CTE pathways offered in our district. That deserves a round of applause as well, because as we focus on the 3 E's, I love the 3E concept. I was not here when 3E started, but I love 3Es. To think about when our students graduate, we want to know what you're doing. So we want you to prepare when you graduate. You're either going to enroll in college, and we want to know that. You're going to enlist in the military, and we want to know that. Or you are ready to employ. You have the skills necessary, and you've gotten those skills. You have gotten the certifications from our district, and you're ready to go into the world of work. That is important for us. Our students earning college credit and industry recognized credentials in the CTE program so that they're able to participate and able to get into a job that is lucrative for them once they graduate. And a part of the way that we do that as well is also increasing our internships, our apprenticeships, our externships, working with the business community so that we're very, very clear on the needs of the students, but we're able to align those needs to start with what they're getting in the classrooms. In college readiness, preparing for college, applications, FAFSA, college trips, college tours, looking at tuition, all of the things that would make sure that our students have everything that they need when they step foot into college. And you know, as a mom right now with a daughter that's graduating, that's already graduated and starting her master's program on the 28th, and another daughter that is going into her senior year starting on the 28th, it is not easy to maneuver. It is not easy to maneuver. So we want to make sure, and our school counselors do a great job of this, but we want to wrap our arms around them and give them additional support as we're truly getting our students where they're looking to go in terms of college readiness. Thank you. All right, behavior. Our purpose forms our promises. How many of you have already heard that we made revisions to the Student Code of Conduct? Clap for me if you heard it. Yes, the word is out there. We've made revisions. Thank you again to the teams that worked on this. Why is this important? Because it's important that we have alignment, consistency, and equity in the work that we're doing, and this includes discipline. Making sure that we are reducing disparities across our schools based on a code of conduct so that all of us understand what is expected of our students and our students understand what is expected of them. Making sure that we're proactive as we think about attendance. I will tell you, last year it was hard for me not being able to talk as much about attendance as I know attendance is important. You know why it was so hard? Why was it hard for me last year to talk about attendance? Why was it hard? Because we had buses that weren't able to pick students up on time. So or get them to school, period. And the drivers were doing their best. They were going back, picking up other routes, but there were students that just did not get to school because the buses did not get there for them. So this year, as we work through that challenge, right now, as of today, I wish I could knock on wood. We have the drivers that we need to start us on day one. That deserves a round of applause. So that as we work through that process, we're also able to really begin to look at what is happening in attendance and how we're making sure that our students are in school every day and they're getting the support and the services that they need. Additional attention around restorative practices. We have launched restorative practices training across the district, and that is huge. So let's give ourselves restorative practices training across the district. Listen, one of the things that we had to clarify for people as we think about restorative practices, our code of conduct has had restorative practices in it for a period of time. Our district has focused on restoration. It was a part of the code. Our district is one of the leading districts in Ohio that has an anti-racism policy and an equity policy. And they created those policies as a board before it was a thing that was happening across the country. That's just to be honest. And a bit of an outlier when it comes to that in Ohio. So those things have always been a part, or I think it dates back to 2012 maybe. Those things have been a part of our district for a period of time. Now we want to make sure we bring those things to life, that we're able to see them in the work that we're doing every day in our classrooms. One of the things that we had to clarify is when people hear restorative practices, they get very nervous because they think restorative practices means there's not discipline. And that's not what it means at all. If you make a mistake, would you rather learn from that mistake, or would you prefer to be disciplined for that mistake? You want to learn from it. Now, that does not mean that there are not consequences. That doesn't mean that there are not things that go along with a consequence, but it is better to learn from that mistake. So hopefully you don't repeat that mistake, even if there's a consequence that has to be served. Our students deserve the same. They deserve to learn from their mistakes. They deserve to learn. Even in the most egregious of situations, they deserve to learn from their mistake, even if they are receiving discipline. So it is not that it is restorative practices and it's devoid discipline. No, what is the partnership between the two? Because you also want to make certain that if a poor choice is made and there is discipline that goes with it, you also want to make sure that it's not repeated. And you do that by learning occurring. So that's the reason that we are taking a firm stance in restoration and a firm stance in the expectations around discipline. We have asked schools to focus on 4 areas, and it's on one of the slides at some point. We've asked schools to focus on 4 areas this year. They'll do more work with their IOTs and determine what else needs to happen at their school buildings. But as a district, 4 areas, 4 simple areas when it comes to discipline: entering the building, exiting or egressing the building, moving in the hallways, and cafeteria. Entering the building, exiting the building, moving in the hallways, and the cafeteria. Now, if you've ever been school-based, wave at me. Most people in this room have been school-based at some point. Those 4 areas are important. Why? Because there's a whole lot of kids out there, right? And there are more than them moving about than there are of us. So in order to make sure that it's ordered, it's structured, there have to be expectations. And the expectations have to be taught to the students. They do not just know it by osmosis. They do not. They do not. And listen, if you teach it to them, they will do what you ask them to do. 80% of the kids, I believe in the 80-15-5 principle. Principals, APs, anyone that's worked with me in terms of professional development, you've heard me say this often. It is an actual principle. It's called the 80-15-5 principle. It works in almost anything. But this one, we're talking about students. 80% of the students are going to do what you ask them to do because you're the adult and they are not. 5% of the students have some greater challenges and they need an executive level of support. The difference is the 15% in the middle. With good structure, with good systems, with good communication, the 15% goes with the 80% to get 95% rowing in the right direction. If those things are broken in the middle and kids have to guess what they're expected to do, they have to guess where they're expected to go when they come to school, they have to guess what they're going to do when it comes to hall passes, that 15% goes with the 5% to get 20% going in the opposite direction, which makes your life hellacious. It is a fact. And I accept the challenge if someone has a better example for me. Because when we think about it, we know that that's actual. So what do we do to start with? We show our children that there is a reset. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new start. We show them that there is a reset by showing them what we expect. Now, some schools have been doing this for a long time, and that is wonderful. But we are going to the team approach to the work that we do. We're not saying how you do it. Do what works best for your school. Whatever works for you. What this may look like in Withrow might be very different than it looks in Rockdale. Do what you need to do in your schools, but know that as a district, that's where we focus because it gives us an overall district expectation. And then our last, of course, on this list is our PBIS and continuing to expand PBIS for implementation. Our ultimate vision for restorative practices is not only do we train all of the individuals that interface with children that are our employees, but that we do the same work for those that are contracted services that support our students. One of the visions, I believe this to be so true. Our students have lost, many of them have lost the opportunity to reason. They have lost the opportunity to talk things out, to agree to disagree. And so before you know it, something very, very small, and sometimes they don't even understand what that thing is, takes them from, in the words of the kids, from 0 to 100 real quick. Restorative practice is about teaching children how to restore. It's teaching them how to recover. It's teaching them how to take a step back and try to think, what is the antecedent to your behavior? What happened before you made this choice? After you did that, this was the consequence. How did that make you feel? Did you really intend to do that? Is that what you want to happen? And that takes teaching. But guess what happens? I am a believer that if our children are taught that with us, the people that they trust the most, they will take that into the community with them, and they will become better citizens on the streets of Cincinnati or wherever else they go, because they've learned that with us. They've learned that. They know us. They trust us. They know that we believe in them. And it can happen. And guess what? It will happen right here with Cincinnati Public Schools. Will we be the model for the nation? Who really cares whether or not we'll be the model for the nation, as long as our children are getting what they need and they're not killing one another on our streets? That's what makes the difference. That's what makes the difference. So it's bigger than us. This is bigger than Aranetta Wright. It's not about Aranetta at all. This is about giving our kids skills so that when they leave us, that they're able to exercise them while they have the guarded eye of our presence. They're able to exercise those things. They're able to make mistakes with people that they know, love, and care for them, even if we have to give them consequences. But we're going to love them through their challenge. We're going to work with their families. We'll continue to do that. But it's important that we share that and that we continue to move forward. You know, one of the things that our CFT president asked me to do as we were talking about this and where we were going with restoration, the code of conduct, she said, you know, Aranetta, I would like for you to do a video that plays to everybody, all the kids at the beginning of the school year, because I would love for them to hear from you. And I thought, well, that's a pretty easy ask, because I believe in this work. And guess what? I know our kids can do it. I know that they can do it. I know that they can show us something different once we teach them what we expect. We hold them accountable for it, but even with accountability comes learning. It comes support. And it comes training. So that is something that we'll look at doing. Let's go to the next. All right, continuing our focus here, our purpose forms our promises, looking at safety. Safety is our first priority. It has to be. It has to be. So many of our children, when you really dig into when they start talking about safety, so many of them don't feel safe on the way to school. They don't feel safe moving through their communities. So how do we make sure that they are feeling safe in our school buildings, that they know how to get help if they get help? I want to take us back this year across the board, and we've seen it a lot over the last several years, but I want to take us back to this. If you see something, say something. Every single person. If you see something and it doesn't look right, say something, because someone needs to know and someone needs to investigate. So continuing to make sure that we're monitoring our buildings, that we're looking at our equipment and how we're using those things, and continuing with our school-based rituals and routines that I talked about quite a bit. Let's go to the next. And the last is culture. The last is culture. Our promises direct our actions. All of us have something that we can be proud of. All of us have something that we can celebrate. I challenge each of you every day, at the end of the day, now you say, now, right, that's kind of tough to do. You can do it. I believe in you. At the end of the day, select that one thing that made you proud that day. One thing. Jot it down somewhere. Not asking you for a lot, just that one. It could have been an interaction with a parent. It could have been a teacher saying something nice in the classroom. It could have been your coworker. You were able to help them do something. That one thing that made you feel good that day. And write it down. Write it down. Go back to that place on those days that you don't feel so good. I've learned to do it. I call it my feel-good file. I make a joke of it, but it's really, really true. My job every day is to make sure that I tick off fewer people today than I did yesterday. Listen, because it doesn't matter what decision I make, somebody is not going to be happy. I'll give you a really good example. During the school year last year, the forecasters had told us it was going to be a horrible storm day, right? Everybody following me, you know where I'm going, right? So, you know, yours truly, I talked to the team, I talked to the operations team. Okay, what is the city saying? You know, we had our little come together, right? Okay, what is the city saying, right? They're saying it's going to be really bad. you know, we're not going to be able to get the buses out. We start rolling them at 5. The worst part about it is going to be the ice. That's supposed to start coming at about 2 a.m. This is a true story for those that don't realize this is true. It's going to be really bad. I said, okay, wait. Okay, you wait. Let me call this person over here. Now, what are you all going to do? Right? We're waiting to see what you all are going to do. You all are the largest school district, right? So took everything in, had a conversation with my board president, said, listen, I just want to let you know that I'm probably going to close school for tomorrow. He said, great. Because those decisions belong to the administration, just so that you know. So I shared with the board president that we're going to close, but the board president doesn't approve whether we close for the next day or not, right? Everybody got that? All right. So he said, great. Okay, great. So we're going to put the information out. I started getting emails from staff. Thank you so much for making the decision before it was too late. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to plan tomorrow. We don't have to worry about what's going to happen. I thought, okay, this is great. This is going to be an Aranetta win day, right? I told my team, I said, it better be snowing at 2 a.m. 2 a.m. This is a true story. I get up at 2 a.m. because I knew if it wasn't snowing at 2 a.m., that was going to be a problematic day the next day. 2 a.m., there was no snow. I'm sitting there looking outside thinking, where is the snow? Where is the snow? 5 a.m., no snow. 5:39 a.m., I get the first email. See, you went too fast to cancel school. You can't win. I talked to my operations team. I talked to Chris. I said, Chris, he was like, right? There was no way we could have known. I said, you know, you're right. So in that moment, with the information that I had, with what all of the weather channels were saying to us, he had talked to all of his folks, the emergency team at the city. I'd actually made additional calls to folks that I knew that were meteorologists for the city to say, okay, this is what we're seeing. Is this really accurate? With the information that we had, I made the best decision that I could. It was the right decision. So as I lead my work, I am making the best decision that I could make in that time with all of the information that I have. But I have to do that knowing that some people are going to like it and some people are not going to like it. So I have to make the right decision based on what I believe is accurate and keeping my eyes on the face of children. Because if I take my eyes off of the face of children, things go awry. So as we think this year for culture, our promises direct our action. Our promises direct what it is that we do, what we put into action. How do we continue to elevate and celebrate our programs and our resources and our successes? How do we monitor and refine our operations to make sure that we're providing the level of service that our students, our family, our staff, our community not only need, but they deserve? And how are we getting our feedback from all of our stakeholders? Feedback that is real, true, and actionable. All feedback is good feedback. Some of us have the opportunity to live our lives and our roles in the face of the media every day. Think about yourself and what it is that you do. How many of you would love that opportunity every day? Not one, right? Nobody in this room, and I'm looking at the camera, I'm looking at you on the camera as well. Nobody is vying to say, right, I'm ready to take your job right now. Not one, not one. So that means we have to come together and determine each day, what is that one something that made you proud? What is that one something that causes you to get up the next day and go back and continue that same work? Connect with that, write it down. I call it my feel-good file. Because every day doesn't feel so good. So I have to go back to those. Listen, anybody, and a lot of you, even in this room and that's viewing right now, you have sent me really, really nice emails where you know things are particularly tough. You've sent emails. We believe in you. We support you. Listen, you may not be yelling that from the rafters, but you're telling the person that it makes a difference too. It makes a difference to me. Every one of those emails, I take it, I print it, and I actually put it in a hard file. Why? Because when things are not going so well and I need a reminder, I can pick that file up and take it with me wherever I'm going. So if I'm sitting on the couch, I can take it with me and read through it because I know that on this day at this time, I made a difference for this person. I do the same thing with students that send messages to me as well. I encourage you to do the same. Next slide. Continuing to look at our actions, focus on staffing and recruitment, making sure that we're continuing to be present. Our All Schools Guide, if you have not seen that on our website, please check it out. It includes all of our schools and all of the programs and services that we offer in the school district, and that was led by our marketing and communications team as well, and work with the principals. Let's give them a round of applause for that. It felt so good. The other day, one of the universities called and said, you know, Wright, I did it twice. One of the universities called and said, you know, we're looking to do some work with this particular group of kids. I said, oh, well, have you had an opportunity to review our All Schools Guide? We have an All Schools Guide that tells you about all of those programs, so we can direct them to that resource. So whatever group you want to work with, you have an opportunity to do that. So what does it mean to ignite? Ignite means initiate goodness by nurturing innovation with tact and excitement. All of us have the opportunity to ignite. This is our year. This is our year. We are back in this place, in this space, at this time, for this purpose. Our children need us, and they need us in ways that they didn't know they needed us. We need each other because things are not getting easier. In our country, things seem to be going really, really awry in a lot of different areas. So we have to pull on the inner strength that we have and the ability to connect with those that are like-minded, that think like we think. I take you back to the song that they played right before I came out. How many of you have a theme song? Right. Listen, if you don't have a theme song, you better get one. Get a theme song. It depends on what's happening with me in the day, which song I play, right? A Lovely Day is one of my favorite. I play that one almost every day because every day gives us the opportunity to start over. It gives us the opportunity to start afresh. And that is what this Nina Simone song spoke to me getting ready for this moment. Because this is our opportunity and we feel good about it. So I'm going into this school year feeling great, knowing that this is our year, and knowing, you can go to the next, knowing that we are the team. Turn to the person next to you and say, we are the team. That was real low. Let's do it again. Let's say, we are the team. We are the team. Yes, I appreciate each and every one of you. And guess what? Every day I may not get it right. Guess why? Because I am human just like everyone else in this room. But what I promise you is it won't be because of lack of focus, because of lack of passion, and because of desire. I am human. So if I mess something up, tell me. I'll do my best to make it better. But know that I err on the side of what is in the best interest of children, because that is my charge. I am charged, just like those of you that are responsible for our students every day. I am responsible for being the objective voice for students that don't seem to have a voice. Oh, wow. I am charged with doing that. I appreciate each of you. I appreciate the work that you do. For those that are new, I appreciate the work that you will do. And you signed up for the best place to be, because this is our time to launch, and this is our time to ignite, because I am CPS. You are CPS. We are CPS. So let's do it again. I am CPS. Come on, guys. We know the drill by now, right? Okay, I am CPS. You are CPS. We are CPS. We are the team. And team, when we know that we're the team means together, everyone achieves more. Welcome back to an amazing school year. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful launch. Give yourselves a round of applause.